So we are now recording for YouTube, and I'm going live for Facebook right now. That's why I'm making this dumb face and not talking for a little bit. Dumb face. And what's up, fight fans? Welcome to episode, what is it, 12 now? Episode 12 of Stoner versus Stoner. My name is Chino LaForge. I'm here with my buddy Don Stoner. Don Stoner, messed up the hand motion. I forgot mirror mode is not on. Don Stoner is accomplished jiu-jitsu black belt and submission grappling, underground grappling competitor. Owns his own jiu-jitsu studio. A Machado black belt. Why am I telling them this? Go ahead, Don. Why don't you tell them your credentials real quick?
Machado black belt, jiu-jitsu competitor. Yeah, you got those two. Just lifelong martial artist. I'm into all combat sports. And so, yeah, boxing, kickboxing. I teach it all at my school. We have a kickboxing class and jiu-jitsu. But primarily I'm a ground guy, I like the ground arts and love jiu-jitsu.
And I am a stand-up comedian and a professional stoner. I feel like that's a job title I've earned thoroughly. I'm a mixed martial arts fan, as well as I competed in kickboxing many, many moons ago, as well as, I enjoy the term lifelong martial artist. That is so true. Practitioners of all skill levels, your journey through martial arts it really is a lifelong pursuit, and some of you do lose your path, and sometimes you don't even find it until later in life. Some of us just train all our lives for nothing. Some of us end up being very peaceful people with the ability to wreak havoc, and that's a talent, a knack. Sometimes you don't have to use it to make money, but that's what some of the people do in the world, and that's why we're here. You want us to cover it. That's why we're talking about it. Let's jump right into it. First of all, we had an awesome card of UFC fights last week over in Vegas. I say over in Vegas because now all the competitions for this week are moving to Fight Island. We're going back to Dubai. The fighters have already been there for a little bit, but one that just happened was Covington versus Woodley. An interesting set of fights. We had some pretty good calls. First of all, the undercards were not too bad to watch either. It was a really, really good card. Really long one, too. It was like about 2 hours worth of undercard fights, plus the main card lasted about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Don, how do you feel about the events overall?
Loved it. Love this event, man. It was a nice mix of up and comers. It was there was a couple guys that are on hot streaks. And then we had some guys that were kind of, let's say, at the end of their career, and some up and comers, some guys that are really hot right now that kind of showed where the rankings are and who should be in the UFC and who should possibly hang it up, and kind of a change of the old guard for the new guys. So it was really a legendary card. It was really one that I think we're going to remember. A very, very good card. What was that? UFC Fox. It was on Fox, which was really cool because we got to actually see it free. That was a pay-per-view card that I would have paid for sure.
Absolutely. What a crazy card of fights. The whole night was interesting all the way up into the main events. First fight that we got to see, Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart. That was quite a fight. We both picked Stewart in that one, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
So we were both wrong, but not by much. That was a 3-round banger. That thing, man, was that a fight? That was a back and forth. I think it was a good decision. It was a good call on the refs or on the judges' side. It was a close one though. The tempo went back and forth. Really went back. It was a dance that you hope that most fights that go 3 rounds will be, because sometimes in a 3-round fight you're subject to a total domination or, you know, a boring, clinch fight or something like that. But this fight was fireworks for 3 rounds. Great striking, great trapping, really elaborate clinch defense movement, a lot of cage work, but not so much in the terms of boring, you know, hard to watch cage work, but a lot of high tempo, a lot of outward angles, big shots, a lot of big shots. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, that fight, you saw almost every situation in that fight. It was really cool. One thing that stuck out in my mind was Kevin Holland with his knee pads. Kind of reminded me of like a Hickson Gracie or a Hoist Gracie. And you know, the one situation where Kevin Holland was on his back and it was in the later rounds and he was kind of kicking at Darren Stewart's legs and he was on the back and he started really kicking. He started going for some head kicks off of his back. He was kicking the legs, and it was surprising because we both picked Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart's a guy who was on a 3-fight losing streak, and then he strung together 2 wins. He started seeing a mental coach, and it looked like he was getting things together. But Kevin Holland was just way more well-rounded, man, and that was the story of the fight. You know, Darren Stewart has so much power. Darren Stewart can beat a lot of strikers. He needs to work on his ground game. That's for sure. He definitely needs to work on his ground game because by no means is Kevin Holland like a world beater on the ground. He's not a Damian Maia. So it showed some big holes in Darren Stewart's game on the ground against the fence. You know, Kevin Holland had better clinch work. Kevin Holland was just very fluid. He was the type of guy where you hit him with a big shot and he's able to kind of dip his head. He's able to kind of move around. So yeah, they'll both be back. They're both UFC caliber for sure. And they'll both be back for some good fights.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Darren Stewart's issue this fight was a mental game issue. I think it was something tangible, and I think it's things that he can work on. So I think we'll see a better Darren Stewart, and I think we'll see a fired up Kevin Holland in his next fight. Some great momentum. Darren Stewart's a great name to put in your hat. That's a great feather to put up there. He's a dangerous guy in the weight class. So I think it'll make some waves, especially for his upcoming next potential opponent. After that fight, we had Mackenzie Dern versus Randa Marcos. You had Randa. I had Mackenzie. Is that correct?
Why did I pick Randa? I mean, Randa. I never go against jiu-jitsu. I never go against somebody who I know. You know, I never go against Jacare. I never go against Damian Maia. For some reason, I went against Mackenzie Dern.
It was uncharacteristic of you. I'm not gonna lie. I was super surprised by that choice, but I capitalized on it. I saw it and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get him where it hurts."
You took me on that one. You definitely took me on that one.
Yeah, Mackenzie Dern came out quick. She was not trying to make any friends in that fight, but also not trying to make any enemies. She didn't do any of the things that you can do in setting up an armbar where somebody's giving you issue. She didn't do any of those nasty tricks that she could have done. You know, one of those things when you're anchoring that arm that I haven't really seen implemented a lot. You can really dig that heel that's against the body. You can really dig that heel into the rib cage. You can even kick with that heel if you want to. If they're giving you quite a bit of struggle, if you want to get them to turn their body into or away from it. And she actually set it up in a very clean, respectable way, horseshoed the arm the way that you're supposed to. Randa did a good job twisting her wrist. I mean, what am I saying? You should be breaking down this armbar. Go ahead, Don. Do what you do.
Yeah. So that armbar was she couldn't get the normal armbar, right? So she was trying to go for your standard armbar where you have your knees pinched, your 2 hands on the wrist, hand on the chest, and you're going hips up. Basic armbar 101. You learn it your first, couple months in jiu-jitsu. Randa had great flexibility. She was putting her shoulder up. So that's one of the defenses to at least stop the arm really to stop your arm from breaking. You put your shoulder up, and then you can get a little space and sometimes roll out of it. Mackenzie pinched it on one side under her armpit and started cranking it. It wasn't working. She went to the other side and she cranked it for more leverage. And I don't even know if Randa tapped. It looked like the referee just pulled her off. Probably a break. She probably heard it pop or crack, which most likely happened because I did not see a tap. Maybe she just said tap. But that's a type of armbar, especially with Mackenzie Dern. I mean, you're not getting out of that armbar. It's just a matter of time. And even if you do, you're going to go into a triangle. You're going to go into another submission. You know, Mackenzie, what impressed me about Mackenzie is, and I didn't actually know this before I picked Randa, but Mackenzie, you know, she just had a baby a couple months ago. She had a fight with her ex-trainer. They literally had a brawl in the gym because she fired her manager. So her husband, who's not even a fighter, he's a pro surfer, ended up fighting her manager. So all this drama is happening, and fighters know, like, you know, if you're not mentally strong, I mean, that can really weigh you in the fight. And it almost gave her more fuel in this fight. Like, she had like just this killer instinct about her. And that's what she needs to climb the division and really win these fights, you know. So we know when she's a slow starter and she tries to box and all that, she gets clipped and it becomes, you know, a longer fight that she needs. She needs to keep fighting like this. And I think we're going to see Mackenzie fight for the title soon after this fight. It looked like that's the type of Mackenzie Dern that we need for jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu fans, to get another jiu-jitsu champion.
I agree. She needs one, maybe two more wins to get that opportunity fight consistently. The issue for a little while with Mackenzie Dern was consistency. You know, she'd get some momentum, pick up a loss, and then and start from square one again. But that's not to take away from her overall talent. Amazing fighter. And I think if she gets one more win, she's definitely in contention for that title run, especially after a fight that dominant.
Yeah. But you always kind of look too. Sorry, you always kind of look like who else on that card fought that could fight Mackenzie, or who in the previous two fights could fight Mackenzie, because that's what the UFC really does, right? So if you see someone who's really hot, like Sarah Eubanks right now, or like some of these, the one Brazilian chick who's really good, who's kind of bubbly, who has a good personality.
Oh, yeah.
That's who they pair up, right? They're not going to like pair her up with, you know, JJ Champion. They're going to pair her up with somebody kind of who has a little stardom, who's on a roll like her. So I could kind of see her going against like a Eubanks or that Brazilian girl. The Brazilian girl, that would be a really, I think they're in the same weight class. I don't know, but that would be a great fight.
I would be very happy to see that fight.
Yeah. The one Paige. Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah. That would be a really, really good one. I think that one surprisingly would take place more on the feet, just because of how high level both of their grappling is. I think we'd end up seeing, a striking match. And a lot of technical moves on the ground that lead to transitions. So, anyways, after that, we saw Walker versus Spann. Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. You almost got that call. You were very close. Johnny Walker got rocked. It was a slugfest. I think there's no other way that fight would have gone other than just with being a one-round fight. The pace was too hot. They're two giants in their weight class. A lot of technical errors as well as a lot of technical successes. There's a lot of excitement in the fight. Spann came in with a high intensity. I don't think Walker was expecting off the bat, and it caused Walker to be open in a couple shots. He got his bell rung. The way he recovered was awesome. His clinch fighting has always been something to be respected, and he showed why. It was a quick fight, not a lot to analyze. Um, uh, Good recovery on both sides. Both fighters experienced adversity, but ultimately Johnny Walker just got a larger opportunity, was able to capitalize it. Thoughts, feelings?
It's so frustrating when I see that one situation where Ryan Spann had him in the double leg and Johnny Walker pounded him out. It's like you almost just want to, I wish their coaches you would say, just let him off. Stop holding him, you know. But I think what happens a lot of times is the guy who's in the takedown thinks he's going to get the takedown, and the first couple punches are like rabbit punches. They don't feel it. And then those hammers start coming, and then just one of the hammers kind of dazes him, and then the opponent sees it and he keeps hammering it. We see guys get stuck in that position all the time, and I'm just like, man, just let him off, just keep striking with him.
Yeah. It's the stubbornness of not letting go of the double leg when it's unsuccessful immediately. If there's no immediate threat to the double leg, you're offering your opponent the chance to adjust and attack. You need to be a little bit more fluid with your takedown attempts. If it's not working, you need to transition faster. And Johnny Walker did an amazing job of angling both of his feet in one direction. What that did is it squared his hips in a direction so that when he threw those elbows, they were still considered a cross angle shot, even though it could be up for debate that it was a 12-6. Because of the way he angled his feet and paralleled his hips, it turned into a cross the body shot as opposed to a direct 12-6 elbow. So kudos to Johnny Walker on that. That's a veteran move from a rookie fighter. That's a really aware move to do in that position. Because a lot of people will fall victim to being called for a 6 or 12-6 elbow in that position out of fear, because referees don't want to make the wrong call. But Walker did a great job of making it very obvious that those were cross angle shots. So
that's a great defensive position too. Jose Aldo uses that too. He'll angle his position off almost like he's in a fighting stance, facing, parallel with the cage, turns his hips that way, and you're in a really good defensive position. So the guy can't take you down when your hips are like that. If you have your legs open enough, you just can't keep your legs too close because he can get the takedown. So they open their legs. They're in a good defensive position where they can't get taken down, and then they slam the elbows. Ryan Spann's best shot, like we talked about, was Ryan Spann coming out and putting it on Johnny Walker and dazing Johnny Walker, at least taking him down and really wearing him down. Johnny Walker got through it. So, yeah. Yeah,
Spann did get a get out of jail free card on that. Or, Walker had a get out of jail free card. Spann hit him square on the chin in a moment where his hands were not where they were supposed to be. He caught him lacking. And, Walker's got some tape work to do to figure out how he got hit and what he can do to prevent that. I agree with the hip angling takedown defense too. There's so many things that you can do from that position. You can switch to 2-on-1. You can cross face. You can whizzer hard. You can, especially when you have the cage against your back too. If you get sink the underhook on the far side, you can use that as weight to stand up too. So there's a lot of opportunities in that spot, and looks like he picked the right one. After that fight, Khamzat Chimaev, Gerald Meerschaert. What happened?
Man, Khamzat. Is it so? We obviously need to say his name right now because we're going to be seeing a lot of this guy.
It's Khamzat.
Khamzat.
That CH is an attempt at the accent. It's Khamzat Chimaev.
Khamzat
Chimaev. Yeah.
Khamzat Chimaev. Man, he went right to it and showed a strike. He striked him right off the bat. Meerschaert was saying a lot of good things before this fight. I watched a few interviews with Meerschaert, and he was talking about Khamzat's game plan, but he was talking about Khamzat's game plan in a way of only wrestling. He said, like, if Khamzat can't get the single leg, then or the double leg, then he goes for the body lock. and then he takes you down from the body lock. So Mearshart was really expecting that out of the gate. He was expecting that double leg, not respecting Khamzat's striking. And that's what you do. That's the mistake that a lot of people make. You make it in grappling, people make it in striking. You think a guy is going to come out with A, B, and C, and he hits you with D.
Oh, and Chimaev totally took advantage of it. I can totally break this one down too. So what happened was, what happened was when they came out, Gerald threw out that the light teep to gauge range to make sure that his hips weren't going to drop immediately off the bat of the fight. So he saw that wasn't going to happen. The way the footwork went, Chimaev was immediately establishing an outside foot aggressively. If we go back and watch the footage, especially if the opportunity to do so in slow-mo, you'll see that he's taking very heavy outside steps and angling towards his jab hand. This causes Jared to have to back up because he's not circling out to avoid being trapped. He's avoiding a possible setup. So he starts circling back and towards his power hand just to get away from his angling. He continues to angle, and he waits until Gerald feels the cage on his back. Now, Gerald made the mistake of allowing himself to get that far trapped. And once he felt that, you'll notice that as Chimaev threw the punch, he dipped his back shoulder. He squares up with him and dips his back shoulder, which reads as a takedown. Immediately, you notice that Gerard's elbows go inside, and he tucks down a little bit, and he also angles his head a little bit in a way that he reads takedown. And all he needs is that split-second feint. And it's really just a minor movement, a split-second feint to come right over the top because, as you said, Jared wasn't respecting his striking. He was thinking more about how dangerous his takedowns were. And, man, did he get popped. That punch sounded so nasty. I don't know if it was because there was no audience there, but that hit sounded probably like one of the most vicious knockouts I've heard this year. What do you think about that one?
Big knockout. And I love that breakdown that you did too, because it makes so much sense. You know, it's like when you shoot in for a takedown and then you give the guy an overhand right. You know, you get him thinking low and then you go high. The only type of opponent now that I see Khamzat for really who he is, which is a freaking rising star, right? A guy who's so confident, a guy who's just confident in his skills, right? And just he thinks he can take out anybody. Will fight 5 times a night, blah, blah, blah. The only guys that are going to beat him are going to be world-class ground guys who can go in and take him down, or a guy who's going to come in blazing like Vitor Belfort against Wanderlei Silva, where he landed 50 punches standing up, blitzing him. You have to surprise him. You cannot wait with a guy like that at all. It's like Khabib too. You cannot wait with those guys at all because you know, they're going to be mixing the techniques to it, you know, so it has to be somebody who's very explosive. I won't pick against him if it's another guy who's technical, but doesn't get into the guy's face like that. You know, I think Demian Maia is a great matchup. Demian Maia is a really good matchup because then we will see if Khamzat's ground is what we think it is. And if he's at that top tier, right? Because if he breaks Demian Maia down like that, then it's like, oh, he's a title contender immediately.
I disagree. I think Khamzat's gonna beat a hole through Demian Maia. I don't think Maia has the diversity that he's gonna need for somebody like Chimaev. I think Khamzat is easily going to cakewalk his way into the top 10. I don't think we're going to see him reach adversity until he reaches somewhere into the top 5, top 6. He is what is new he's the next generation of fighters of what MMA is going to look like. And we are going to be seeing in all weight classes in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to be seeing this new school of MMA coming out, these young 18 to 24-year-olds that are going to clean house. They're going to come in, they're going to remove the permanence, and they're going to start the next wave of fighters because there's just new ways to train out there. It's no longer segregated coach training where you had your jiu-jitsu coach and you got your striking coach. No, you have completely well-rounded fighters training completely well-rounded fighters. People who are training techniques off of so many different martial arts that are tuned specifically for body types and not necessarily a martial arts specific style. It's getting so hybrid right now that we're seeing a maximum level of efficiency, as well as top level athletes who have been fighting since childhood. People who decided not to be football players, who decided not to be, gold medal gymnasts, who decided not to be professional baseball players or hockey players, who decided to be MMA fighters since they were kids. That's a big, big difference. Imagine if Simone Biles became an MMA fighter instead of a gymnast. I can't stress that enough. Imagine what we would see if our gold medal champion athlete in Olympics could throw a flying knee. What would that look like? And I don't have to ask this question in 10 years because we'll find out. It's going to be crazy. I can't wait, especially in women's fighting.
We'll definitely find out. What I look at it is Kobe Covington and Kamaru Usman, right? Mm-hmm. Both have the same opponent, Damian Maia. When they beat Damian Maia, they instantly became title contenders because that is the fight that's like you beat Damian Maia, you beat the best ground guy in the UFC, boom. You beat a guy who 90% of the roster could not even stand up to. So that's the fight where Khamzat's going to be tested, right? And I'm going to pick Damian Maia on that. We're not ready for that pick yet, but I'm going to go Damian Maia because I need to stay true to my roots of jiu-jitsu. Damian Maia, if they both put it in the gi, Damian Maia would submit him 100 times out of 90 times in the gym, right? But it's not jiu-jitsu. It's not grappling. It's MMA. Khamzat lives in the gym. He's a hungry dude. He has all the confidence in the world. Damian Maia's already made his money, but that's what fight. And if Khamzat breaks it in immediately, we're going to be talking about, Khamzat versus Kobe, Khamzat versus, whoever's hot in 170 at that top 5. So I'm looking forward to it, man, because he is a real deal. He's a real deal.
And that's one thing is that we haven't seen Khamzat's jiu-jitsu. We've only seen his wrestling. We've never seen him in a position of disadvantage, so we don't know. We have no idea what he's capable of from his back or from any other positions. But that's to be seen. Fight after that was Donald Cerrone, Nico Price. We're going to have to split the difference on that one. We both picked a fighter. You had Cerrone, I had Price. And it was a majority draw due to the eye poke. Of course, it was a great fight. Price really laid it on Cerrone in the first round, rocked him early on, and made Cerrone fight out of deep water. But he did that. He did just that. Second round was turbulent as well. Third round, Cerrone started showing signs of life again and really made it a fight. How'd you feel about the whole engagement?
How in the world are you going to call a deduction for that eye poke when Stipe and DC are eye poking the crap out of each other the whole time? John Jones eye poked somebody 10 times in a fight, and you're going to call an eye poke on that? And that was like, for me, a sparring match, that was like, and I know I made the quote about Nico Price being the poor man's Donald Cerrone. Okay. We know that. The fans know that. Okay. I said that, but No, Nico Price proved that he's like a Donald Cerrone when Donald was coming up. He wants to be Donald Cerrone. He wants to and do everything Cerrone did. What I don't like about Nico is the reaction he had. He was so happy about the draw, right? Because a real competitor, you're not happy. You're not happy unless you finish the guy, really. He's almost too happy to be there in a weird way. But can you really blame him because he's fighting Donald Cerrone? You know,
Yeah,
he should have won the fight. He completely dominated the first 2 rounds. Round 3, Cerrone came on with some good strikes, but it was more survival strike. You could tell Donald Cerrone was gassed. Donald Cerrone was, man, just not the Donald Cerrone we've seen in other fights. Dana wants Donald to hang it up. I think that's not a bad idea. I mean, the guy's fought so many battles. He has nothing else to prove in the sport. And I don't want to see Donald go down like that. But I think Nico's one of these weird guys where he's marketable and everything, but I just don't see that killer instinct. So he might end up being it like a Diego Sanchez in his career, you know.
yeah.
But he showed he has the tools. Anybody who can do that to Donald has the tools, man. Don't get me wrong. You know, he was just more hungrier. He's younger. He had sharp technique. It was a great fight, back and forth.
Yeah,
You know,
I think he was. I think he was stoked by the draw because he's a fan of Cerrone's. I mean, you can see it in his fighting style. He's very much like a young Cerrone. He has a lot of the same talents, a lot of the same flash. His pizzazz, even his personality type, is kind of similar to Cerrone. You know, they were talking about wanting to have a beer with each other after the fight, and I could totally see that. I could see them. I see it as a passing of torch. Cerrone already wants to rematch him in January, and you know, I don't know if I want to see that. Price is saying is like, oh, that'd be its own main event. It's like, yeah, I mean, it was a good fight, but I don't know if I want to see Cerrone fight again so soon. We saw what happens when we have a fast turnover on Cerrone fights. He doesn't do so hot. He needs that time to rest, and I don't think I know he'll be the last one to tell you that. And it's funny, the Nico Price being a poor man's Cerrone. I think that Khamzat Chimaev is Khabib without a dad.
I will leave that alone.
And then the main event, Kobe Covington, Tyron Woodley. You picked this one correct. You had Covington. I had Woodley. You called it. Woodley didn't show up again. He just got hammered on. Didn't do much. Didn't fight back. He just got his ass kicked. Anything you want to say about that fight?
It was just like you said, Woodley didn't show up. One of the things that I thought Woodley might have an advantage would be in the mental side of, maybe he's beat up Kobe a couple times in training. And Dana White I think Dana White said it best, which is just Woodley didn't show up. And Woodley, sometimes he shows up and sometimes he doesn't. And it's a confidence thing. It's a training thing. It's a hungry thing, They made it a little too much about politics and this and that, and I understand you're going to get people hyped up, especially now. Everybody's on edge about everything. I talk to people, there's so many opinions, but I didn't like that whole aspect of the fight. I didn't need any of that. I knew both of these guys are warriors, but seeing Kobe go with Kamaru Usman before Kamaru broke his jaw just showed me that Kobe, those guys can be titled. Kobe, Kobe, Kamaru, and Gilbert Burns. Those three guys, anyone can be a champion. They're all so similar. They're all hot. They're all young, and I mean hot, like hot on hot streaks, right?
You don't have to explain yourself to me.
No, my wife's watching this. She's like, what are you guys talking about?
What the hell?
You know, any of those guys can be champions. But I think Kobe strikes me as someone who's, you know, just a little bit hungrier. He has this weird thing about him, this competitive thing. You know, when you see guys in the room that are you know, just the hungriest guy, they're so competitive. They never want to lose. That's what Kobe strikes me as. Like one of those guys that were like, even in training, like he always wants to beat you. And I think he might have that over Kobe, over Kamaru. I think Kobe's going to be the next champ over those three guys. I think Kobe has what it takes. And especially after what I saw with Tyron, because even Kobe said it right. Like nobody's really dominated Tyron like that and made him quit. Like the other guys beat him to decision because Tyron's really good. Like he's a veteran, so he can coast. He can get in those safe spots and he knows how to like coast and stay safe. You know, he can, you know, you can post him against a cage and he knows he can clinch you and throw a few things, move around. But he couldn't do that with Kobe, right? Kobe was just on him. And that really stuck out to me as like a defining moment. So no, it was a good fight. It was a good fight. You know, Tyron, one thing I didn't like about Tyron is his confidence in his guillotine, because that's one of the things that I thought he would give Kobe a lot of trouble in, his guillotine choke. And the one time he did commit, he broke his rib. Right. So it was just a really great fight. That was my favorite fight above Kazmat and all that. That was my favorite fight of the night.
Yeah, Kobe Covington's a warrior. He's got a character that a lot of people despise, which immediately makes him some type of needle mover. Every hero needs a heel. I don't know if he's ready for Kamaru Usman yet, though. Again, because Usman pretty decisively beat him in their first fight. There's a couple of rounds. There's a round I would give to Kobe in that fight, but the other rounds I'd definitely give to Kamaru. And I mean, he said it best in the post-fight interview when they were having when they were going back and forth. Kobe Covington was saying that he wanted to come for him for his belt and saying what he was going to do, yada, yada, yada. And Kamaru Usman very calmly said, I broke your face. I broke your face. I broke your face. You think you're going to break me in the ring? I broke your face. It's not talking about who's going to break. I don't know if Kobe Covington is ready to fight Usman yet. I think Usman Burns is going to happen, and I think Kobe and Masvidal is going to happen. I think Kobe wins that fight though against Jorge Masvidal. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's what the UFC wants too, right? They want Kobe to beat Jorge, and they want Kamaru to beat Gilbert, and then those two guys fight, and that's, I think, the fight that's you know makes sense. That's going to happen. You know, all things can change in MMA. You know, Gilbert Burns is one of the. I mean, he's on the hot streak like nobody else, right? And he competes in jiu-jitsu too. Like we see him in professional jiu-jitsu tournaments like every couple of weeks, man, and he's beating the top guys in jiu-jitsu. So he has something that's very, very special, that's different from Kamaru and Kobe, which are very similar fighters, wrestlers that are decent boxers, but they change everything together, decent kickboxers. But something tells me Kobe's going to rise above that. And I don't know what it is. And maybe it's this last fight with Tyron, but I think maybe it's a change of camps too. I really liked his camp. When I heard all the things that his camps was saying over at MMA Masters, you know, I've trained with those guys, and they're kind of an unknown camp, right? They're very unknown. They have a jiu-jitsu guy, Daniel Valverde, and they have a striking guy, Ferreira, Muay Thai guy. Both of those guys are the top guys. But now that they're focusing on Kobe, I really, really like that, because I know Kamaru's camp, they have a bunch of guys that are the top tier. Like Kamaru trains with Michael Chandler, Luke Rockhold, so many guys that camp has to focus on, but Kobe's camp just focuses on him. And that means something for Kobe. So I really like what's happening with 170. I'm really excited about 170. Like it's almost like for me one of the best divisions right now, 170.
Man, these divisions are just firing. There's so many great fights on the horizon um, for multiple weight classes. I mean, we have Khabib to look forward to. Potential, I believe that's next month.
Yeah.
So we have that to look forward to. Um, and that whole weight division is cooking too. The lightweight division's crazy stacked. The top 6, the top 7 looks like an impenetrable fortress. If you're a new up and coming fighter, man, that's got to look like one of the most daunting marches to a championship potential run. I mean, can you imagine potentially seeing that lineup in front of you on the roster?
Man. And now they have Michael Chandler too.
Yeah,
And
Michael
like
Chandler's got some.
now that you have Michael Chandler, I mean, you basically what the UFC's done is, they got Justin Gaethje from World Series of Fighting, the best guy in World Series of Fighting. They got Michael Chandler, the best guy in Bellator,
The best guy in Bellator, 3-time champ,
right?
best guy in Bellator, yeah.
And now we've seen what Gaethje's done. Imagine what Chandler's going to do, right? So anybody who's counting out Michael Chandler that says that he's not ready for the title shot and all that has not seen Michael Chandler's career. I mean, Michael Chandler he's like a Justin Gaethje. That fight actually is going to be, when those two fight, that's going to be one of the best fights in the UFC, because both of those guys just get after it.
Oh, they're
both
dogs.
little wrestlers.
They're both total dogs. They're both absolute dogs that are hungry. And as long as Justin Gaethje still has that vicious mindset, because he's talked about how many fights he has left in his tank. And, there's potential that if he reaches past where he thinks that he originally wanted to go, that he might lose some of that fight. But that's not to say that he isn't just an absolute wrecking ball right now. Yeah, I don't know how that fight would go. How do you think that one would go down?
Man, that's just somebody will get knocked out in that fight.
Definitely.
Somebody will get knocked out because Chandler's in the same stage of his career as Gaethje,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same place that Habib's in too. What worries me about Habibi is all the personal things and all the things that he's going through and all the guys he's already went through, and when you have Gaethje and Chandler now, they want what Khabib has, it's just really interesting. Like you said, 155 for me is the best division. 70 is the second, and then light heavyweight and heavyweight, are after that. And then you have the lighter weights, featherweight and bantamweight. But yeah, 55 right now is just, man, it's so stacked.
There's stacked weight classes as far as the eye can see. It's all the way up to heavyweight, and even in heavyweight, we have a bit of a shuffle going on for the future title prospects. Of course, we have Miocic, who needs to gets healthy again. That last fight, I'm sure, took a lot out of him. No 5-round fights are without their injuries, so that's going to be its own thing. But man, speaking of races for belts, let's talk about the main events for this upcoming Saturday. Main event itself, we have Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa, and that's of course for the middleweight title. And then we have Dominic Reyes and Jan Blachowicz. Now they say it's for the light heavyweight interim title, but that's assuming that John Jones would be coming back to light heavyweight, which he has expressed very openly that he is not. He's not coming back to light heavyweight. He's going to do heavyweight and then probably retire. What are your thoughts on that first fight with Jan Blachowicz and Dominic Reyes?
Super tough fight to pick. I was going back and forth on that. Which one did I pick on that?
I believe in our message you picked Reyes.
Reyes, yeah.
And that's who I would go with as well.
Yeah, that man, that's a tough pick for me. I think we might have to have a first one where I switch over to John on that one.
Okay. So you're gonna go Jan Blachowicz?
I'm gonna go Jan on this one.
Okay.
Jan has the striking advantage. Dominic has a little more, he fought with John Jones. You fight with John Jones, you immediately put yourself in a different area of fighting. You're like, boom, you fight John Jones. But guys have fought John Jones like Anthony Smith that have done okay. OSPs fought John Jones, and then they never really did anything.
Hold on. Done okay? No. Anthony Smith got the shit kicked out of him. That's not. I mean, it wasn't a Glover Teixeira ass whooping that was laid upon him, but John Jones pieced him up for 5 rounds.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like other guys beat Smith way worse than John Jones beat him. Like, but you're totally right? But Reyes had a close fight. Yeah, we'll call it a close fight against John Jones.
Yeah.
He stayed in there with him. But John, his striking really makes me think like Dominic Reyes I don't think can strike with John. I think Dominic Reyes needs a clinch and take John down. John's what he's shown in his striking, starting with Luke Rockhold when Luke tried to move up to 205 and just going down the line. I mean, he just pieced guys up, and he's a finisher, man. He's a finisher. So it's going to be a great fight for sure. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to stick with Reyes just because, I feel like the Jones fight made everybody forget what this kid is capable of. Before he stepped in the ring with John Jones, he was 9-0 in a very difficult weight class. I mean, he only spent 5 fights outside the UFC before making to the largest fighting platform in the world, and then made it to the top ranks that quickly. Dominic Reyes is a stud. And as far as his striking goes, I don't know if he's as explosive as Jan Blachowicz, but I do think he is. I do think he does belong in the same ring as him. I just think overall in the world of mixed martial arts and where the fight is probably going to go, in terms of it being, what is it, a 3-round fight or a 5-round fight? Let me check real quick, because that will make a big difference.
It should be. It better be a 5, man. I don't want to see.
It better be because it is for a belt. If it's a 5-round fight, I'm going to give it to Reyes just because I think that he is a better conditioned fighter. But Jan Blachowicz is very scary. I agree with you. This is a fight that could go either way, but I just see it more tangibly going to Reyes. But we've never seen him handle a loss. We've never seen how he does after an L. So that's going to be really important, is to see where his mental state is, because things can change for young fighters, especially if they've never lost before, and they take one. Although losing to a champion is nothing to bear in shame, we don't know where he's going to be at. But I'm still going to go with Reyes on that.
Yeah, so John beat Jacare. John beat Luke Rockhold. Both middleweights, mind you. And then John's biggest win was against Corey Anderson. And he basically kicked Corey Anderson out of the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, if Reyes wins, it's going to have to be a TKO. He's going to have to ground him and TKO him, or stun him, TKO him. So it'll be good, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. And then the main event for that night, Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa. You got Costa, right? No,
yeah.
I got Costa. You got Costa. I got Adesanya. We already kind of talked about this in the last podcast, but has anything changed? We both know about Costa's ability to finish a fight, or at least to keep the pressure on for high intensities for the entirety of it. We both know Adesanya's ability to counterfight and to pick his shots in opponents who are able to normally dismantle people. We've been talking about this fight for a few weeks now, just because it's been a buzz since we've heard about its announcement. Um, is there anything that you see coming into this fight that you would like to to reanalyze or to add, to break down? We did see that they bumped into each other in the lobby recently, and they actually had a friendly encounter. It wasn't fueled with hatred. Um,
Yeah, which surprises me.
yeah,
Costa. Okay, so the only fight that I wanted to watch was both of these guys versus Yoel Romero. Right. Costa brought it to Yoel Romero. Israel got a little confused when Yoel started doing some crazy stuff, right? He stood in the ring with him. He didn't move for like, I don't know, a minute. Yoel just put his hands up and just stood there. And then Israel had to figure out, what is this guy doing?
mm-hmm.
Right. And then it was a boring fight for me, Israel versus Yoel. But Israel versus Costa was a knockdown, drag out fight because Costa just came forward and he just wouldn't stop. And Yoel was forced to fight that fight. What's going against Costa is he's a stand-up fighter, right? He's a stand-up fighter. And when you go into Israel's realm like that and you want to take him out in that, you have to knock him out. You have to go to the body. You have to land some big hooks. But I think Costa's going to stun him. I think Costa's going to stun him. And I think Costa's going to hurt him. And that for me is going to be the deciding factor. When I saw Costa come up, man, he's had one of the fastest rises in the UFC. Paulo Costa just steamrolled through everybody until he hit Yoel. Yoel's the only guy who took him the distance. So, it's going to be good to see how that shakes out. If Costa can take him down and get on the ground, Costa has a huge advantage. Costa's good on the ground. We just haven't seen him there yet. We haven't seen Izzy on the ground either, but Izzy doesn't have what Costa has on the ground, right?
No, I'm going to agree with you on that. But if we're worried about how Israel Adesanya is going to fight after getting stunned, I mean, look no further than his kickboxing career. He knows how to fight with people in his face. That's actually how he's designed his entire fighting style, is to account for the fact that he's always been kind of the thinner guy in his weight class. And he's found a way to manipulate his strengths that have been his what others have seen as disadvantages to be his strengths and his way of fighting and his signature style. I honestly think that Israel Adesanya has been training for somebody like Costa his entire career. I think as much as Paulo Costa is as dominant in his style, I think Israel Adesanya is as equally prepared for that style of fighting. So I think what we're going to see is a clashing of preparations. Who's better, the person who's perfected their style or the person who's perfected countering that style? I think we're really going to see a meeting of the minds and not just the bodies in this fight. I think we're really ruling out the fight IQ in this. And I think that's going to be a huge factor, is the fact that I think Israel Adesanya is the more intelligent fighters in terms of taking the information that's in front of him and interpreting it, and at the same time giving out information for their opponent to try to solve. Because that's what a fight really is in the standing world, is you're both trying to figure out your opponent simultaneously. And the more information you're putting out there, the more confusing it is for your opponent to do. But at the same time, the more information you're putting out there, the more tendency you're showing. So it's a give and take of that technique. And I think Israel Adesanya is more keen on the mental game of that. I think Paulo Costa is a little bit more of an instinctual fighter when it comes to those terms. And I think that might give Adesanya an edge. But I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
It'll give an edge. One thing we can't expect, fight fans, is that Paulo Costa, if he gets clipped, if he gets hit, he's going to keep moving forward.
Definitely.
he's not going to stop moving forward that whole fight. And that's something that we've seen with some of Izzy's opponents is they kind of shell up and it becomes a defensive fight. This is not going to be that. Paulo Costa is going to force Israel to trade blows, right? So either Costa's getting knocked out or Izzy's getting knocked out in this fight. I don't see this one going to decision. And if it's 5 rounds, they're going to be gassed, and it's going to be like one of those brawls that we say it's fight of the year.
And that's a pretty big either. That's like the biggest either you can have. It's like either one dude gets knocked out or the other dude gets knocked out. You know, that's a huge gap of either. That's you know, it's just one of those fights that you should be excited for. And if you're not, like, I don't know what you need. Is there a Viagra for fighting? Because you would probably need that to jumpstart your excitement. Because there's no way that you aren't hyped for this fight if you're a fan of fighting. There's just no way. This is a fight that we've been waiting for too long, and anybody who is a fight fan has had this fight in their stocking, waiting for Christmas, and Christmas has come. The rest of the fights on the main card, we have Kai Kara France versus Brandon Royval. We both picked Kai in that one. I don't know much about that fight. Do you?
Not too much, you know. Obviously, Kai's has a little more backing. He has a little more steam coming into this. So, yeah.
Interesting that they put that fight so high in the card, especially when you have Diego Sanchez and Jake Matthews in the undercard. Interesting move, but who knows? Before that fight, we're going to have Ketlen Vieira versus the Sarge Eubanks. You got Eubanks in that one. I got Ketlen. How do you think that fight plays out?
Well, Sarge, she's on a win streak, right? She has a lot of hype behind her, but she's active. She's a little more active. Caitlin's active too, but it's been a while. It's been a little bit since she's fought. So I think Sijara now is just more comfortable in that fight. She knows she's getting confidence in her game. She knows who she is now.
Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah, I think back to when Sarge thought that she was ready for that title shot when she was supposed to get it, and then she got passed on, and then lost the next fight, and then came back from all that. But I just don't know. With her. And because of the fact that we're picking winners in this, I was looking at the records, and Ketlen is on a bit of a tear herself. She's quite a talented fighter, and she's got wins in all categories. She's got submission victories, she's got KO victories, and she's got decision victories. So we know that she can go the whole mile. We know that she can submit people, and we know that she can knock out people. I don't know if we know the same thing about Sarge, and I don't think she has as many tools as many areas as Ketlen does. So, but it'll be a fun fight to see on the main card. And then before that, we have Hakeem Daewoo and Zabaria Tugaev. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. And he's been on a tear too. But we both got Daewoo, Hakeem Daewoo. We both got him on that fight. I remember his last outing being very convincing. Am I wrong?
No, it was very convincing. Yeah, he's a little more, he's more on a tear than the other guy.
DT.
Yeah, Zabar, but Zabar, I mean, he's had a lot of UFC fights.
Mm-hmm.
He has more than 5 UFC fights. So that one could go either way. We don't know too much about these guys. That one can go either way. And that's what you always see on a card where you have 2 guys headline like Costa and Israel. You see guys that, we don't know too much about, but that one can go either way. But I like Hakeem.
I think that one's actually going to be a sleeper for one of the potentials for fight of the night. I think both those fighters have a lot to gain from putting on an amazing performance, and both fighters are quite capable of doing so. So I think we're going to see quite a fight with that one, especially at their skill level. When you don't have that much to lose, I I wouldn't be surprised to see them both let their hands go and watch some fireworks. Yeah. So also talked about earlier, we got Michael Chandler coming to the UFC straight from Bellator, which is interesting because UFC has been more cutting people off the roster than getting new people. Just recently, John Dodson got cut from the UFC. Do you think he's going to get picked up by Bellator?
I mean, Dodson's like, man, I mean, Dodson's a frustrating fighter because, you know, I remember Dodson when he was coming up in grappling tournaments way back when I started, you know, and everybody was talking about Dodson because he was so different and so explosive. And then he made it to the UFC and he did pretty well in the UFC. But yeah, I mean, Dodson will probably go to Bellator, you know, he might go to Ryzen in Japan, you know. But you know, he could do well in Bellator. Don't get me wrong, he could do well in Bellator, but he's only going to fight once a year in Bellator. You know, and that's what sucks for these guys is like they get to Bellator and they think they're going to fight 3 times a year. They think they're going to make the same money, and maybe per fight they make more, but over the long term they don't make anything compared to it unless they're in the title contention.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll definitely see, you know, but as far as Michael Chandler being signed, I mean, for me, that was like, I was just so happy to see it because I've been waiting for this moment for so long to see Michael Chandler fight, because Michael Chandler is one of the only fighters that I know that's done everything right since he started fighting. I mean, doesn't drink, doesn't do anything. Like, he's only trains, you know, look at this guy's Instagram.
Never missed a weight.
Never. There's no, for sure he has some skeletons in the closet. You know, who knows what this guy does in his private life, right? But let's be, you know, but as far as fighters go, he's the clean-cut fighter that we've ever had that just hasn't made the UFC. The problem with Chandler, and some of the other UFC fighters have chimed in with this, Kevin Lee mentioned this, and I know this because I met Michael Chandler. He's a small guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like 5'6", and he's 155. When a lot of the 155ers are 6 foot or, you know, bigger, they're cutting down from 185. And Michael Chandler's pretty close probably to 155, like a Frankie Edgar type guy where he's pretty close.
That's going to be a tough weight class for him if he's.
That's tough because even Khabib is like 190. He walks around like 190, 200 pounds and cuts.
Well, if you're looking at the weight class for somebody like him, you're going to have to start from the top down. And, you know, if you're looking at Volkanovski, Holloway, Ortega, you know, these don't look like good matchups for him. But it'll be interesting to see. Well, we got to get wrapping up for this week. We'll bring in Michael Chandler again, especially because we're going to be finding out what kind of contract he gets pretty soon as far as the fight goes. So I'm super excited about that. Guys, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Give it some love. You can find it in our Facebook links. Check out our Facebooks. Check out our social medias. You can find me at Chino Bra. Where can they find you, Don?
You guys can find me at dstoner_LWJJ. I just want to give a shout out to a couple of our fans here, if that's okay.
Sure.
Chino, my brother.
Do it.
We got a couple people. 360 Kimonos is watching. They have some good gear, a good jiu-jitsu company. Russ Torgensen has been watching. Brian Whitaker, the politician from the East Coast, has been watching, giving us a lot of likes and everything. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. I know maybe I don't get back to all your comments, but we really appreciate you guys watching, and you guys are the fuel to what we do, and love talking with you guys offline about all this stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Again, just super grateful for all the people that watch the show.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the support. Please tell your friends who are MMA fans. If you like what you see, go ahead and send us a comment on one of our posts and help our viewership raise a little bit. We would like to see more of us talking to more of you. That'd be awesome. Thanks for tuning, guys. We'll see you next week. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about then. Until then, enjoy the fights. Aloha.